Yeah. Get Iron Maiden on the back of your jean jacket. Did you take the jean jacket off? What are you doing, man? That's bad mojo.
Come on, dude. I can't.
Stunk.
Yeah, you got your new thrifty jean jacket.
This guy lived at the Scuzzy Peel joint in Aurelia. I took my uncle there one time. Sorry, Aunt Gail. He came in. Me and my brother took him in.
Just buried your uncle. He came in. He told her that he stayed in the parking lot.
Yeah,
it was a long time ago. Me and my brother, Uncle Jim, and we wheeled in there for.
Never heard of a Peel in Aurelia.
Dude, it was
never heard of that.
Something else.
Was it in someone's basement?
No, close, but there's no way in hell it's still open, man.
No.
Google it, Doogie, because it was.
Doogie, you Google it on your account.
Yeah.
Your Bell Media account.
Their security will come kick
Please,
the door
on
down.
Google Maps, Doogie's Bell Media account, and then flush the history as quick as you can. Yeah.
Wow.
That I've never heard of that, although I haven't really been seeking out peeler joints in Aurelia before either. I know there's a great bakery up there. That's how old I am. Great bakery up there in Aurelia. But anyway, yeah, it's good to be here. The final hour. We had the jean jacket earlier, but we'll save that for other days moving forward. We got a big hour here. Mike Johnson coming up. Johnny's over in Prague at the World Championships, and I guess John Tavares is on his way over there to play for Canada.
What do you make of that?
I was very surprised when I heard that. I credit him. I credit anyone that's willing to do that. Like anyone that's willing to, after a tough season. I wonder if he's like, I just got to get out of here. Like, I got to get out of Toronto. I can't.
Why
be
not? Just go play.
Get me out of
I
here.
thought of that too.
Yeah. Just get me out of here.
Not to mention too, you add in, if he goes over there and wins and has a good showing, like maybe it shows prospective teams that if he's going to move on, if he decides to move on and the Leafs decide to move on from him, shows that he can still play and be effective in, for another team. Or maybe there's, I think there's so many different layers to this, but I don't see any negative layers unless he goes over there and it looks awful. That's, I guess, that could happen too, right?
Yeah. I mean, he's played for Canada, obviously, so much in his career. I mean,
Right.
It's possible he's trying to put a foot forward to be a part of the Four Nations Cup next year, right? Like, I'm sure John's got a lot of confidence in himself. And that's, I was wondering that about Marner. Like, should Mitch be over there playing to kind of put your foot forward, like, hey, I want to be a part of the program the next 2 years, right? Because they get the Four Nations Cup next year, and then they get the Olympics the year after that.
You would think that if he wanted to be a part of it, because apparently they made it known, it's like, don't blow this stuff off.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, exactly. I was kind of waiting to see if that might actually happen. And I know he had the high ankle sprain, towards the end of the year, and that might be a part of it as well. Just thinking, hey, I'm gonna recuperate or whatever. I don't know. But I was kind of thinking it could be in his best interest. In fact, I would say that outright. It would be in his best interest for Hockey Canada for him to say, I'll show up.
Yeah.
And he, as far as we know, he didn't accept the invitation. I'm sure it was extended to him. Had to be.
Well, if Tavares is going.
There. Yeah, and if Tavares is there, exactly.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, Tavares is, you mentioned like trying to play for future stuff. Do you think he would be able to crack that?
I don't think so, Noodles, but I credit him for putting his name in the hat.
Right.
Like I got a lot of time for a guy that is willing to play for his country. I know it's tough after a long grind.
Yeah.
And it's not, right around the corner. Like, you got to go to Europe here. It's a long,
But
long
it's most
distance
likely
thing.
a guy like Braden Point in that position at this particular point.
Yeah, I don't think Tavares will be mocked as a member of the team, and I don't mean mockingly. I mean, if you're doing like a mock team for Team Canada, I don't see Tavares being a part of that program. But he's one of those guys that got jobbed by them not playing best on best for 8 years, because he would have been there in 2018. For sure he would have been there in 18. He probably would have been there in 2020 if they played something, 2022. But it's probably come and gone for John. But here's Mike Johnson, our TSN hockey analyst, who's over there in Prague, and I guess we'll be calling games featuring John Tavares. Johnny, what did you make of that news that JT's on his way over there?
Surprising, for sure. Just with, he's got a young family, and it's a handful, and it's been it's kind of a stressful year, and maybe not the easiest year for him. You thought maybe he just wants to get away a little bit, just sort of unplug and be away from hockey, but I mean, for all the criticism that the Leafs and players in the Leafs, about not winning and not rising to the occasion, the fact that he wants to play, wants to try to win something, I'm with you. I don't know in his mind, is he playing to secure a spot on the potential Olympic team. I mean, maybe, but it's probably unlikely to happen. But, represent his country, do it again. I got a lot of time for him. I'm excited that he's coming over, and they have a decent team. He has a chance to do pretty well there. So it's, I think he arrived today, and they play tomorrow at noon. So I don't think he's going to play in tomorrow's game. Noon local time here, 6 a.m. back east. So I don't think they put his body through that. But I mean, I think it's pretty cool. I think it's admirable, and it's something that should be commended.
Absolutely. Well, we were theorizing, is it possible Johnny just wants to get out of here? I know you're not in town right now, but
talk about unplugging. How about I just go to Europe?
Yeah.
Time change. I can't walk. And the way the time changes is it's hard to watch the games. The first game starts at 1:30 in the morning, and the second game starts at 4 in the morning. You're not likely to be up to watch those games. So you can really get away from it. If you get off your social media, you kind of don't hear the press conference today. You don't hear Shanahan talking about everything's on the table or evaluating how they do things. And you don't think about what does that mean or have people speculate. What does that mean? One of the core five, two of the core five, whatever that entails. I think that is part of it. Maybe just getting right out of the country and being able to just sort of play and be gone from it all.
Johnny, what do you make of the team? We talked about the additions. Celebrini leaves, PLD arrives type of thing. Look at a guy like PLD. What do you think's behind him, him heading over there to try and maybe salvage his season?
Yeah, probably. I mean, listen, they let Celebrini go home and Fantilli. And I'm not going to lie to you, I was kind of looking forward to watching both those guys play for Canada, young guys who are trying to prove something. But 2 years ago, Noodles, Pierre-Luc Dubois came over, and he got voted the best forward on Canada. He had 13 points in 10 games, 7 goals. He was really good. So maybe he wants to try to recapture those good vibes after what was a disappointing, difficult season in LA. He gets the news he's not getting bought out, so he can relax on that front. And now he can just maybe try to go play and remind himself why he's really good when he's on top of his game. But I was a little surprised. Nick Paul scored the gold medal goal 3 years ago, the overtime one with Connor Brown. So he had a good year, 20 goals. Brandon Hagel had a monster year in Tampa. So they're upgrades. Hagel was top 10 in the league in 5-on-5 points. So I think the one limitation on this Canadian team might be offense. And so adding guys, Tavares, Dubois, Hagel, Paul, that's a pretty good quartet in this tournament of forwards to be adding at the last minute.
Johnny, I'm sure you kind of seen tweets and about what transpired this morning. Are you positive looking forward to the next coming year, or what do you make of all that happened this morning?
So, I mean, not surprising there was no bombshell stuff, but if you read between the lines, the tone of Shanahan specifically was different than years past, right? He was very sort of vehemently in favor and in support of the team, the makeup, the philosophy, the 4 guys, the 5 guys, if you include Riley, whatever you want to call it. And to hear him say, finally, and I think he sums it up quite well. He is a very good speaker, but the idea that, when they're younger and they're developing, you give them time, you give them the benefit of the doubt. You want to run it back and see if they grow and learn and change. But after a while, if they don't, at some point, you can't keep going back to the well thinking it's going to be different when history and a long history has shown you that it won't likely be different. So I think that was the most significant change of tone from the top, which does open up the door to interpretation, but I think it's pretty clear. They're going to look at potentially changing the core 4. They all have no move protection, so it's going to take one of those guys to okay it. But that was the biggest thing to me. And I think at this point, these guys are all really good players. That's established, right? There's no question about that.
Yep.
And they're going to go somewhere else. They're going to be awesome somewhere else if someone goes somewhere else. But I think at this point about being excited for next year, I think a different look, even if the results are the same, I think it's worth exploring. What is that? What is a different look at this point? And in that sense, maybe Leaf fans, whatever, you might be curious about where could they go if they try to do something different and what that might look like, because the same old thing would be, maybe even for the players, might be sort of we probably shouldn't do this at this point. We probably should change it, and now it looks like they're going to try to.
Well, another elephant in the room here is the goaltending position. We talked about it yesterday, and I've been going on about it, on SportsCenter and on with Jay last night. Like, the dust settles, you get a new coach, maybe you do something with your core four. As of now, you have Joseph Woll, and that's it moving forward. And Tree Living, I give him a lot of credit today. His candor, he's like, the issue with Woll is he gets hurt all the time. Like they got to figure out.
He was very candid.
Very candid. Very, very candid. And he's right. That is what everyone knows.
Thing.
That's a fact.
Debate, go ahead. That's facts.
Yeah. But, they better figure that out, Johnny. Like we talked about it yesterday. You look at the three guys up for the Jack Adams. It's Demko, Hellebuck, and Saros. Those are their goaltenders. Mm-hmm. So if you're a new coach coming in, I would think the first thing I'm asking, I'm not necessarily asking what happens with Tavares and Marner. I'm saying, who the hell's playing net for me? Because that's going to give me the best chance at actually winning once I finally get there.
Yeah, but and if Woll stays healthy, I think the idea of a young, growing Woll that is able to stay healthy for 82 games will play 44 of them, and a solid veteran, I mean, not Martin Jones, but whoever it might be, like a guy who's been around a little, Kevin Woodley, whoever it might be that could play 38, that doesn't seem so bad, and there'd only be $3 or $4 million invested in the goalie position. I think given the way the salary goes, depending on what happens to the other guys, that seems plausible, but can you trust Joseph Woll to stay healthy? I guess Brad Treliving is sort of acknowledging you're not really going to trust him fully because he hasn't been able to. Some of it's no fault of his own, some of it's his body betraying him, but if he can't stay healthy and they can't count on him, then that has to factor into your plans going forward. They might sign 2, 3 kind of veteran backups to have options in case guys get hurt. But yeah, you're right. But in the end, Hayes, like Samsonov, we know was a roller coaster, and we know that there were some moments in the playoffs where he wasn't as good as he wanted to be. In the end, why'd the Leafs lose?
Yeah, they didn't score goals.
But they could not score. So yeah, for sure, goalies are an issue. But I think the team is going to be good enough that they'll be decent regardless. But in the end, how many years in a row? 5 years in a row, they can't score. And this was the one. I'm curious what your interpretation of Trey Living's comment about we need to do stuff that the harder, uglier stuff that's unrelated to skill or whatever that quote was that he kind of alluded to. And that could be interpreted like we need grittier, grindier players, or we need our players that we have to be grittier and grindier, which are two very different things because the Leafs, to me, in the last several years have leaned into the idea of we need to be tougher to play against. We need to be grittier, and at the expense of their offense. They've become a more mediocre team as they've gotten sort of tougher to play against. And so trying to find that balance, and if Shirley's been talking about we just want to get tougher, then that one sort of raised my eyebrow. I'm like, I don't know. You need puck movers. You can't just
What about just simplify it, Johnny, as to get it done factor? Just get it done. I don't care how it looks. You want to run a guy over and punch him in the face, that's fine. If the puck goes in the net, that's the ultimate goal.
Mm-hmm.
Well, coming through in the clutch is what we're talking about here. How you go about it, I don't know, but you got to find a way to do it differently than you have.
But couldn't he be talking about the best goal scorer in the world who isn't in the playoffs? Austin Matthews is not a playoff goal scorer. He's not. He scored
not at the same rate.
Not even close.
Not
even remotely close at any point. Why does it have to be, the third and fourth line? Maybe that's directed at the big boy.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It could have been, hey, we need to get our guys, and our guys, he means Austin and Willie and Mitch and John and JT and whoever's there. Mm-hmm. They have to be tougher. Nothing to do with their skill. We know they have their skill. It's a mindset they have to change about what they do unrelated to their incredible skill. Exactly, Hayes. And if that's what he's talking about, I am all on board. 100% on board with that idea of they're amazing. They're all amazing. Incredibly talented team. There's a reason why they're good every regular season. But, something needs to change. And it's not just change the coach. It's not just change the depth players. And it might not even be just change one of the core 5 guys. Maybe it's the guys that remain, they also need to change. I think saying out loud or saying to those guys privately, yes, Austin, you had one of the greatest years in the history of hockey, really. Mm-hmm. But there are elements of how you play in the playoffs that need to improve, to change. to give you and us a better chance to be successful. I think that's an important conversation, that they don't think, oh, it's the other guys need to change, we're good. Because that's not the case, even if one of those core 5 guys ends up leaving.
Well, Johnny, and I know this is recency bias, but you look at David Pastrnak, like he got crushed in that series, like physically. Edmondson ran him over. The guy just kept getting up and coming back to the table, and he ends up getting the game winner. We saw what he did the other night. Again, I'm not suggesting Mitch Marner or anybody has to drop the gloves, but I think I've said this all along. If you're talking about the growth of players, it's winning at all costs, competing at all costs, and stepping outside your comfort zone. Maybe it could be passively aggressively pointing and saying, we need more from you guys, that we are paying a lot of money, and you guys, it's not just about points, it's about getting the win on that particular night and doing whatever it takes. And that I read a lot between the lines. I think there's going to be change. I really do. I don't know how many times they said it today, like, you can't keep coming back and all of that type of stuff. They were cryptic, but saying it without saying it, like, to me, they don't believe that this group, as it's constructed right now with that core, is getting it done, so they're going to have to change it.
Yeah, O says that phrase, like, you got to get out of your comfort zone a little bit. And that doesn't mean depart who you are and go become a brawler.
Not at all. Not at all.
Expand a little bit of, like, what, where you take yourself in those moments and have sort of the will to do it. And I think that's right. And it's also worth noting that the 3 men on that stage, they're all very bright, right? So, like, they're not saying anything they don't want to say. They're not saying anything that they don't want sort of out there to be construed the way they want to construe without saying it. So I think the fact that, we and everybody else are having these thoughts and conversations about what they meant is absolutely intentional. Like, Brendan Shanahan is very smart with that kind of stuff. And so, like, he's sort of planting the seed. He's putting it out there that things are going to be different.
Yeah, and listen, a few weeks ago, we were all hyped about the 4 Canadian teams going to the playoffs. 2 of them are out, and because someone's got to be down 1-0. One of them's down 1-0. That's the Oilers. You got Oilers Canucks tonight, and the Canucks have beaten them 5 straight this year, 4 in the regular season. Game 1 the other night. I don't know what you're expecting, but I kind of
maybe they just got their number, Hazy.
I guess, yeah. I mean, it's probably too premature to suggest that, but if Vancouver wins tonight, that's probably the conversation tomorrow, is it not?
Probably, but I would draw a closer parallel to Winnipeg had beaten Colorado every time this year, beat them in Game 1, and then Colorado took care of the rest of the series. So I'm not saying Edmonton's going to get the next 4 games, but I do think Edmonton has enough in them. What's worth watching, what's up with Leon Draisaitl, because he was, air quotes, cramping, and all of a sudden now he's no longer skating and practicing. Like, that's not because of cramps. The next day your cramps are fine if you're fine. So you wonder what his health is now. He's been incredible in the playoffs in the past when he's been injured, the ankle thing. But I think Vancouver's a very good defensive team, and they need him to be full up. I think the other part about Edmonton, they lean on that CC Nurse pairing, and it's not been good. Like, flat out. Like, they have to change how much they play those guys. Like, I know Nurse makes a boatload of money. Doesn't matter now how much money he makes. Like, you just got to play the players in the appropriate spot as best you can. So that pairing just got caved in Game 1 and didn't do great at 5-on-5 in the first series either. That's something to watch. And then Stuart Skinner Noodles, he has these odd blip games where, like, that is just not good. No. But he generally responds in a good way. So we'll see what happens tonight. But yeah, if they lose tonight, it gets a little stickier. And I think because there's so much pressure on Edmonton as a favorite, and McDavid and Draisaitl on the timeline and all that stuff, like that could make it harder for them to work their way back in the series if they don't win tonight.
Yeah, lots of pressure. I mean, but you're right. It's all about response. And through all of this, Johnny, like, how about we need to give Vancouver some credit.
Yeah.
Like that. They've been a very resilient team. And
you know what, Noodles?
Yeah.
Like we were around Toronto, and it's always like, well, didn't quite work out. Willie was sick. They're on their 3rd goalie. Their 3rd goalie. And they're still trying to find ways and finding solutions. So yeah, they deserve a lot of credit for the way they play and the fact that they keep, Pettersson hasn't been very good, but it hasn't it hasn't stopped them from being successful.
Yeah. Which, they deserve. Yeah, Rick Tocchet deserves a lot of credit. The defensive core that is big and mean and lean on, the goalie, I swear, the goalie I thought Edmonton did not play well, period. But the goalie was like, here's a 4-1 lead. I like it the other way, because I didn't think Silovs was very good. He was guessing on pucks and just kind of sliding in there, and one went through him, the Hyman goal. The goal he had no chance on was flat out the Hyman backdoor power play goal.
Yeah.
So you can't give them a power play 40 seconds into the series and see how it's going to unfold, because that did look like it was going to be a 7-1 game. But then they found a way to battle back, and that's something that Edmonton's got to respond to. But we'll see what Vancouver's got up their sleeve tonight, too. They're not just going to go, hey, we're happy with one win. Exactly.
That's right. They're allowed to play. Right?
Yeah.
Maybe Silovs does what he did in Game 6 in Nashville.
Exactly.
After not playing great, he plays well tonight.
Well, that would be the worrying part if you're Edmonton, wouldn't it? That, you didn't play well, which is a tough matchup. You haven't had any success, but they didn't play well. Like, you also need to appreciate that Vancouver will very likely be better in this game than they were last game. Like, the goaltending will be better. They won't take the early penalty. They won't have to score 3 late. So it's fascinating, because you're right. Vancouver, the higher seed, the home ice, and yet everybody was picking the Oilers to run through Vancouver easily, and that doesn't look like it's going to be the case.
Nope, for sure. All right, Johnny, how's life over in Prague? Beautiful city, beautiful country.
It was gorgeous today. Sunny, warm. The Swiss fans were packing the bar at 9:30 a.m.
I love it.
Pounding back the Pilsners like it's going out of style. There was about 20,000 people in the rink tonight. It was a 0-0 game between Czechia and Finland, but it was really exciting. Jaromir Jagr, of course, was there. The president was there. It was the place was bubbling. I feel bad that I'm in my room on a Friday night when it is just perfect. But I have 3 games tomorrow, so I got to mind my energy for a couple of days.
Yeah,
Johnny, that is I went out there one night, and it was a late night, myself and Jamal Mayers, and we ended up at a pizza joint, and they had pepperoni pizza with corn on it. I don't know what the heck, and it was unbelievable. Now, I was a little deeper in the night.
Was the pizza good, or was it because it was 5 a.m?
Probably a little bit of both, but I'll tell you what, I took a picture of it. I got to find it, but it was unbelievable. And I mean, that city is, you can find, you can find a little pub, you can find anything there. It's just an unbelievable city.
Anything.
Pizza with corn. Keep your eye out for it.
Pizza with corn, man. I like
pepperoni pizza with corn on it.
Okay.
All right. If I find one late at night, I am live tweeting it no matter what time it is.
Yes.
My corn run at 4 a.m.
I love it. I love it.
Best.
All right, buddy. Good luck with that pursuit, and we'll do it again next week.
All right, boys. Have a good weekend.
There's Mike Johnson, our TSN Hockey analyst, live from the World Championships, which, of course, you can see on TSN. Mail-It In Fridays brought to you by Boston Pizza, Canada's favorite sports bar. From tip-offs to tie bites and puck drops to pizza, BP's elite lineup of apps, wings, and ice-cold beers always dialed in for game time. Hustle into your local BP tonight. More on Game 2 of the Oilers-Canucks series. We'll get to our best bets brought to you by FanDuel. George Springer not in the lineup tonight. I guess he's not feeling well. The Jays are back home against Minnesota. Kikuchi on the mound tonight. Manoah slated for Sunday. So,
all right.
That's one you circle. And Minnesota, we know what happened the last time they saw him, obviously in the playoffs. There's just a weird vibe, man. Like the Leafs and Jays are just going back and forth, like pointing at each other. Like, go talk to those guys. Go look at them.
Meme or whatever.
Yeah. And then the Argos are right in there, too. This Chad Kelly mess, is just crazy that it's, the fact that he was at the rookie camp, I just don't know why they would even go down that road. Like he's been suspended. There's obviously a lot going on. But yeah, there's a lot cooking here in Toronto. I don't think there's any disputing that. And we'll see what the Jays have. Maybe it's a positive weekend for the Jays. I think the city of Toronto could certainly use that. Absolutely. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2. Love it. She loves you in net for the Canucks tonight. Right when he comes on the ice, I'd be blaring this song. She loves you, yeah, yeah, yeah. I like She Loves tonight. I think She Loves stands on his head.
Oh, yeah?
But I like the Oilers to win. So I'm not sure that actually adds up. Because I think 97 is going to come out with a rocket. Yes.
Guns blazing.
Guns blazing tonight. I'd be surprised if he didn't. He deserves that type of appreciation and expectation, right? That's how good he is. Best Bets brought to you by FanDuel later in the hour. But, the buildings out in Vancouver have been rocking. Like, it's been a great atmosphere. It's been a long time since they had a home playoff game, right? They were in the playoffs in the bubble, but no one could go.
Yeah, it's been so good. Like, people are stepping outside of their way to make sure they mention it. They're like, that's the loudest they've seen.
Yeah.
That's what happens when you get people that have been craving that for a long
Absolutely.
time. They're going nuts.
Canadian market, great hockey market, plus the Oilers are in town. Let's head out there now from NHL.com and writer for InGoal magazine. Here's Kevin Woodley. How you doing, Kevin?
Cool
we
stuff.
don't have Kevin yet. Okay, that's great.
Oh, we didn't have him
I
yet.
thought we did. That's my apologies.
You know what? Kevin's really good at breaking down goalies. Like, InGoal magazine is, if you've ever watched it.
Yeah.
Did someone get in your ear and say he's there?
I thought he was ready, but that's on me. I'll own that one. But I take full responsibility.
Full responsibility. You're like Shanny.
That's my guy.
I love
take
it.
full responsibility, although I'm also not going anywhere. I have a lifetime contract.
That's true. That's true. But what Kevin writes for, they've got a great setup there. But he's really good at applying analytics with goaltenders as well. So he'll have a full breakdown of your guy, Silovs.
She loves you. I'm glad you said that, because if you buried his analysis and we were about to bring him on, that would have been awkward. I feel like this guy doesn't know of anything about goaltending.
He knows a ton about goaltending, and he will have great insight on Silovs and Stuart Skinner. He had a great article the other day about Skinner's pads.
Okay, I like it. Here he is.
I read that. It was very good.
There we go.
There's our boy Kevin Woodley from NHL.com and InGoal magazine. How you doing, Kevin?
I'm good. Let's just hope nobody on my beer league team is listening to this, because they're all going to be like, no, this guy can't stop a puck. He knows nothing about goaltending. They're all full of crap.
All right, I love it.
Say, those that can't do, they teach or they talk about it. So that's me.
Right. I love it. You're like Milos from Seinfeld.
That's us.
Exactly what that's how we operate. We love this Silovs. We're a big fan of the way he operates, and we love that it's not been an excuse. Like the Canucks are on a third-string goalie, Kevin. You're around the team all the time. Like, they just continue to persevere regardless of who's in net.
Yeah, no, and don't forget, Casey DeSmith, up until Game 6 and Silovs shutout against Nashville, probably had the best goaltending performance of that series, in Game 3 in Nashville. So they're getting it from all three guys. I guess you need it when your number one's not available, right? And I think when you watch Arturs play, there are certainly a lot of stylistic similarities between him and if you're watching Thatcher Demko. Not the same degree of explosiveness. Thatcher's powerful to the point of almost violence in his movements. Arturs isn't quite that fast, isn't quite that big, but the system that they've learned from their goaltending coach, Ian Clark, it looks very similar when either guy's in net.
Kevin, you mentioned Demko, and I'm sure the players, they've always got it in the back of their mind, like, if we're going to pull something special off here, we need that number one guy in there. He's going out on the ice and doing that thing where it's like you never know when he's going to come back. What do you think the status of him is? Is he like hurt bad where he's probably not returning to hockey this year, or where do you think he's at?
No, I don't think we're to that degree, because he's been on the ice, like you said, and now that they're back in their building, they've done a very good job of not letting us see those sessions, but they don't have a practice rink, and that allowed us to see it out at UBC, and so that would have been ahead of Game 1 here, I think on Monday, that they had to practice out there, and because Pearl Jam was in town. And I got to watch that, and, a lot of it was mostly conditioning. He was down on the ice in a butterfly, but it was very deliberate with the pushes, not full width, not full flare, none of the explosive movements that we would, he would need to make in order to play the game. Not even sort of, and Jamie knows, like when you're in a narrow butterfly versus going full width, like the amount of pressure that goes in on the inside of your knee, there was none of that. And no drops either. Like there were movement from the knees, but no drops into the butterfly that I saw. It looked mostly conditioning, and that would tell me that we're still a little ways away. I've had people tell me a couple weeks ago this could be an end of second round thing. More of the information lately is that we're probably looking at the conference final. I think in part, you got to be cautious. This is the second injury to the same knee over the last couple of months. And I think just the inherent nature of that, as much as you're worried about the next 4 days or 4 weeks, you also got to look at the next 4 years for this guy. A Vezina Trophy finalist here, deservingly so, and not a guy whose career you want to prematurely end because you were, just a little too eager to get him back for this playoff run.
So, Kevin, the other night you're watching the game, and it's 4-1. Hyman squeaks one through the 5-hole, and, he's late to seal. At any point, did you think that DeSmith was going in? Because I thought at that point, maybe they would have made the change to give him a little bit of house money. Silovs just didn't look on his game. He looked like he was over-aggressive, trying to find the puck through screens, stuff like that. But I just thought at that point Edmonton had control of the game, even though the metrics didn't really show it. But did you think they were going to do a goaltender change? They don't. They end up coming back to win the game.
I think one of the caveats here on this one is, and you know how this is, it's the stick, Jamie, right? Meyer's stick getting in there and deflecting that shot changes it. I mean, Hyman walking into the dot as a goaltender, we know he's not shooting this along the ice, right? So you're trying to hold edges. You're trying to stay patient as a goalie, protect the top of the net. It hits Meyer's stick and ends up going through the legs. I think it maybe looks worse than it is because of that. But I was with you. I thought they might switch. And I got to be honest, not even so much because of the goals, but because some of the things you talked about, the way he was playing, I thought we might see a change for game 2. The moment has not been too big for Arturs Silovs in the playoffs. A lot of talk about the World Championships and the pressure he was under playing for Latvia. Never had a medal of any sort in that country, and he leads them to their first ever MVP of the tournament. I don't think the moment's too big. But he has never seen Connor McDavid. He has never seen an Oilers power play like this. I think the pace at times was too fast for him in that game. And so I wondered if they would share that opinion and maybe go to Casey DeSmith, who has beaten Edmonton twice and at the very least is comfortable with what they do. He's seen McDavid before. He has that experience. You mentioned screens. Got caught looking around the wrong side of a screen on the Ekholm goal. Now, it was his own players that screened him, 2 forwards in the lane. I'd argue if you get 2 forwards in the lane at this time of the year, one of them should get in front of that. But he's gotten caught, I think in the regular season, tiny sample, but 6 shots with screens, 3 of them went in. Nashville series, game 5, game-winning goal, screen from the top of the zone, up near the point. Traffic is one of those things that I think, Jamie, it takes experience. We all know about what side you're supposed to be looking for, what the system says, things like that, but you need to experience, and I don't know that he has enough of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we'll see. I mean, he's going tonight. We just heard that Swayman's playing tonight. I don't think that's a surprise. We all thought Swayman would get back in there, but he did get pulled the other night. We're chatting with Kevin Woodley of NHL.com and InGoal magazine. What about Skinner on the other side? Everyone's had a view. Everyone talks about Skinner, coast to coast. Everyone's got an opinion because everyone, loves what the Oilers bring up front. They love that power play, McDavid, Draisaitl, etc. He wasn't good the other night. He was pretty good against LA. Do you believe he's capable of doing like what Aiden Hill did a year ago and giving them enough to get to a cup final and possibly win one?
Yeah, I absolutely do. And I know that until you've done it, you haven't done it, right? And that's going to be a question he's going to have to answer, especially with the numbers in the playoffs last year and a couple of the blips so far this year. But the one thing that Vegas did for Aiden Hill is they made sure that teams weren't able to get to his biggest weakness. Every goalie has relative strengths and weaknesses, and they kept opponents away from his. If you prevent teams from attacking off the rush, Stuart Skinner is going to be just fine. If things get into rush chances, if the Oilers, like we saw them sort of sag back and let the Canucks come through the neutral zone with long breakout passes that fed more of a transition speed attack, if you get into a rush game, that's where his numbers, frankly fall off a cliff. That's why his numbers were so bad at the beginning of the season, because under Jay Woodcroft, they were dead last in the NHL, high danger chances against off the rush. Once they made the coaching change, they became one of the top teams off the rush. And I just think that's, something he's still figuring out in terms of making decisions on depth when we get rush chances, skating, in terms of backwards flow and things like that. You're playing away from his strengths if you start giving up rush chances. And again, I know that goal on Garland looks terrible, but it's one that Connor Garland has scored before on other National Hockey League goaltenders. He understands that if he gets you to bite on that fake slapper, you have to open up to get back to your post. The thing to me is, why are you biting and why are you that far on top of your crease on a guy who's probably not scoring on a slap shot on the dot, from the dot on you? So the one that I think hurt him the most was the Lindholm goal, banked off his own stick. But you keep it in zone, end zone. Stuart Skinner, I absolutely believe, is capable of backstopping this team to a Stanley Cup.
Okay. Well, that's what people in Edmonton want to hear because, listen, they got to play better than the way they did the other night, too. It's not just Skinner. I mean, we've been discussing that for a couple of days.
Well, that's what you were mentioning earlier, Hayes. And, Kevin, do you think, I know the Canucks fans are dying for the Canucks to win. They support their team. But do you think a majority of the building is going to say, okay, 97, what are you going to bring tonight?
I mean, I think the Canucks are looking for it, right? A lot of guys talked about it. And a lot of that will be power play, right? Because they only got one opportunity. Canucks took that too many men 40 seconds in, and then the Oilers didn't get another look on the power play. So McDavid goes without a shot for the first time in his career in the playoffs. And again, Knobloch talked about it this morning. No, they didn't get another touches on the power play. They've done a really good job of neutralizing as much as you can. It's all relative. McDavid's going to get his. But not allowing him to skate through out of his own zone, through the neutral zone with speed. It allows the defenseman to gap up. JT Miller's job's done a really good job of limiting those lanes that McDavid can skate through and create the speed that makes him so dangerous. And not just in game one. If you look, and I know it was early in the season and the Oilers weren't playing well, he had one game out of the 3 where he went off for a goal and 2 assists. He had 8 shots. And the other ones, I think he finished the whole season series of 3 games, 1 goal, 2 assists, -4. And just, there's always moments, but they've done a really good job relative to other teams to sort of minimizing those moments. And a big part of that, obviously, is not putting them on the power play 3, 4, 5 times a night.
Yeah, easier said than done. But, that building, man, we've been talking about it, Kevin, that, it should be rocking. It's the playoffs. It's the second round. It's Vancouver. It's a Canadian hockey market. But that fan base is getting a lot of love out here. And I would assume the other night, like when they stormed back from down 4-1, that's probably as loud as that building's maybe ever been or since they went to the Cup final 12, 13 years ago.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm 24 years into this, so I've been around for a couple of runs, and I think 2011, you think of the overtime goal or the late goal in the first 2 games to go up 2-0 on the Bruins. That's the last time I remember it even being as close to as loud. When they scored 2 in 39 seconds the other night, I honestly think that might have been the loudest I've ever heard it. And certainly players on the bench, they couldn't hear each other talk. There was a penalty shortly after, I think it was minutes after, where the players still couldn't hear the whistle on the ice. So tons of energy. And I think the players have talked about this too. Vancouver fan base gets a pretty good reputation for getting down on the team when things aren't going well, and it hasn't gone well for a long time here. But within the game this year, it feels like even down 4-1, there's nobody booing them off the ice. There was a Go Canucks Go chant that sort of erupted when they were down 4-1 right before the Lindholm goal. There's been more of a support the team, pick them up versus these guys suck, let's boo them off the ice after 2 power plays get blank. So it's a different vibe. A lot of new fans, frankly, that weren't here the last time they hosted a playoff game. And the atmosphere's been fantastic.
Well, enjoy it. It's going to be a fun one tonight, Kevin. We really appreciate all the insight. We'll do it again down the road. Thank you for this.
Thanks for having me on, guys. Really enjoyed it.
You got it. There's Kevin Woodley, who would be a hot commodity, right? If you have a goalie that's willing to play beer league, like beer league goalies are mandatory. You have to have them. You can't play without one.
I talked to him, I think, when I was out there, and he's coming off a concussion. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? He goes to beer league, and he's a very passionate goaltender. This guy lives and breathes goaltending, knows gear. His segments on his website are unbelievable because he had Joseph Woll on his website recently. Yeah. It's called Pro Reads. So he goes through drills and plays and ask the goaltenders, what are you thinking here? What are you thinking there? It's some unbelievable. If you're into goaltending, it's a great website. But
so Noodles, what kind of investigation is going to get into Woll's?
He had a back sprain. That's what Tree Living said.
Yeah,
today.
so how do you do the investigation? Do you look at movements on the ice like we just mentioned, or is it? How do you figure out how a guy's always hurt is the bottom line? Because sometimes guys just get hurt. We've all seen it in pro sports.
All I can think of in recent years before that, Joffrey Lupul was a guy that was just always hurt. Really good player when he played, but just couldn't stay healthy. You never want to get, especially early in your career, you don't want that reputation. Unfortunately, Woll's got a little bit of it, and it's, you can't you can't criticize an injury. There's nothing you can do. But I at some point, you got to look at the body and all of that. And it sounded like Tree said, we are going to investigate a lot of different ways. My understanding, and this is talking to other people outside of Toronto that know Joseph Woll from St. Louis, one of his best friends. I ran into him in the stands in a game this year. It was this guy is dialed in, takes care of his body. He prepares the right way, eats the right way. He's not a goon at the bar or anything. it's unfortunate. Maybe early in your career when you're still learning to play a lot of games. Keep in mind, in college, you don't play a lot of games. Now, all of a sudden, you're going to be playing every day. It's wear and tear on your body. You hopefully early in your career, you get stronger and you work through it, because I think Woll has a chance. And people say he's a young guy. He'll be 26 next year. He's the same age as Samsonov. They're actually like a year apart. But he's got to turn the corner physically so that he doesn't have these little nagging injuries that all of a sudden keep him out of a game 7. Like, there's no.
That's wild.
I can't blame him. Like, the guy was trying to save the goal, but ultimately,
a strained back or something. I've
never heard of that injury in the NHL.
I haven't either. I don't recall a goalie missing for a back.
Well, and he skated that morning too, right? Like, what was weird is we didn't pick up on it. Like, I remember reading, like, Masters going, hey, they're out for morning skate, and Joseph Woll and Jones are sharing a net. I never even think twice about, like, who's sharing the net, who's in the starter's net, because we just all assumed. And then all of a sudden there was rumblings from our insiders like,
I'm telling you guys, I don't trust the health as much as I don't trust the performance from Samsonov. They're both on even keel. I don't trust either one of it. And I've told you 100 times the pattern. 2 good games, and then it's poor play or injury, and both happened in the round against Boston. Both. There was some solid goaltending. What followed it? Poor play or injury. Can't depend on it. Can't win with it.
No,
right.
It's got to be rectified, and that's a part of the change that we've been talking about that I fully expect will be investigated, will be assessed, and will be attacked. They're going to change things. They're going to turn things over. And, what that means for the core 5, we've been talking about it all week. We've been talking about it all day. I'm more of a skeptic just because I feel like we've heard it before, or we felt like it was coming before. I could be wrong. And if I am wrong and they make drastic changes, I'll be the first to admit, okay, there you go. They did it. They decided to take it in a different direction. And we'll find out. Like, they got a long offseason. It's not going to happen tomorrow. It's not going to happen, in the next week or two. It's going to be months in the making. And we'll see how it all plays out.
It's unfortunate. He might have just needed a trip to the Atherley Arms.
Yes, the RIP, Black Armbands.
But apparently it's not open anymore.
No, it's not. They tore it down. Well, I mean, look at the place.
Look at that place.
That is the grimiest looking place on earth.
Smelled like stripper tears and Crown Royal.
Yeah. But didn't, you said, Hayes, you said it was like, envision it like an old house, and that picture
that's exactly what it looked like.
What it was.
That was on high alert.
Idea. That carpet that came out.
I have an idea. I have a really good. Some guy wrote and said that jean jacket. I think I saw it on the floor in 1982 at the Atherley Arms. Whoever used to own that jacket circled back there the next day saying, "I think."
I'm telling you, that guy that owned that jacket lived underneath the stage
at the Atherley Arms.
Yes.
If you look at the picture,
he had a cot and a setup underneath the stage.
Yeah,
he was a troll.
Yes, he was. Harry Potter of the Atherley Arms.
If you look at the picture that was sent, do you see that there's a door on the second floor and there's a ladder to it? Like no stairs?
Just a VIP room.
It's a ladder. A yellow ladder.
That's how you go to the VIP lounge. You take the ladder.
Yeah. Can you imagine if someone spotted you walking up, taking steps up a ladder to get to the VIP at the Atherley Arms?
It's $100 to go up to the VIP. Where is it? Go up the ladder and you're
the yellow ladder.
Just
crawl through the window and look at the ladder.
Oh my God. 100 cash. You can take the ladder up.
Yeah.
Yellow ladder.
Enjoy.
You're halfway up and your wife comes around.
You get a hard hat to go up the ladder. That's class.
That is all class.
Yeah.
All class.
Yeah. You get harnessed in with a hard hat and you go up the ladder to the VIP champagne lounge.
Yeah.
That is the best picture ever.
Oh, man. What a spot. The stories that building alone could tell.
They had to knock it down. I guarantee you they burned that place to the ground. They had to knock it down.
Yeah. That thing had demons. All right, we'll come back with our best bets. Brought to you by FanDuel. Overdrive continues, TSN 1050, and on the TSN app. All right, today's best bets powered by FanDuel. Make your picks and assemble a same-game parlay in seconds on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. The road teams are favorite. I'm on both of them. Edmonton ties it tonight. Florida wins in Boston. I'm on Edmonton and Florida tonight. Today's best bets powered by FanDuel. FanDuel's goal in the first 10 minutes is the most electric bet in hockey and can be included in a same-game parlay on any NHL game. Please play responsibly, 18 plus and physically located in Ontario. I wouldn't say this is a mail-it-in Friday. I think we've had a lot of stuff to talk about all week, but obviously Boston Pizza, mail-it-in Friday, and this is a Boston Pizza type of weekend, right? We love it. This is a Mother's Day special. Get to BP. We love that on Sunday. And, there was a lot to get into this week, coming off the Leafs' early exit again, but we turned the page. We turned the page, and we move on, and we'll see what they have in store moving forward.
Hazy, why don't you come up with on Monday a mock roster for the 2024-2025, and we'll break it down.
Okay, I'll come up with that.
It could be pie in the sky. It could be so far-fetched, but just not all three of us, because it's too many boards and names. You're the guy that's got to come up with a mock. It could be anything.
Okay, I'll figure something out. Give me give me a couple of days. I'll figure it out.
Put UC Saros on there.
Oh, yeah, UC will be in there. I might throw Silovs in there, too. All right, thanks to everyone behind the scenes for helping out. We appreciate it. Everyone for tuning in today, TV, radio, podcast, web. We appreciate that. We're out of here. Enjoy your evenings. Enjoy your weekends. We're back Monday at
Atherley Arms. You had some good soldiers walk through that door. We salute you. 4 p.m.
We'll chat then.